1800 hours Pakistan Standard Time. Assalamu alaikum. This is Radio Pakistan. The news read by Sumaira Kamal. The headlines first. The Federal Cabinet has decided to monitor the implementation of development projects under Public Sector Development Programme. G20 has suspended Pakistan's debt of $3.17 billion by the end of this year. Foreign Minister has urged Afghan leadership to sit together to resolve problems in the critical phase of peace process. Egyptian President says his country values brotherly relations with Pakistan. Sindh budget with 1,477.90 billion outlay for next fiscal year was presented in Sindh Assembly today. In Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, all parties Hurriyat Conference and Hurriyat leaders have condemned the inhuman treatment meted out to the Kashmiri detainees languishing in different jails of India and the occupied territory. And now the news in detail. The Federal Cabinet has decided to monitor the implementation of development projects under Public Sector Development Programme. The decision was made in Cabinet's meeting chaired by Prime Minister Imran Khan in Islamabad today. Later briefing the media persons about the Cabinet's other decisions, Minister for Information and Broadcasting Chaudhry Fawad Hussain said a mechanism will be evolved in order to ensure timely availability of funds for the development projects. He said a third-party evaluation of the development projects will be carried out in order to ensure transparency. The Information Minister said the annual PSDP for the next fiscal year is of 900 billion rupees and most of the mega projects for Sindh will be financed from it. Chaudhry Fawad Hussain said the Cabinet today approved implementation of storm water drains projects under Karachi Transformation Programme. The Cabinet approved the appointment of community welfare attaches in 7 countries. The Cabinet discussed the use of electronic voting machines in the elections. The Chaudhry Fawad Hussain said electronic voting machines have been developed as per the aspiration of the Election Commission. He said it is our desire that the next by-elections are conducted using electronic voting machines. He said we consider overseas Pakistanis an important part of Pakistan and our priority is to give them the right to franchise. G20 has suspended Pakistan's debt of $3.17 billion by the end of this year. Sharing this at a news conference in Islamabad today, Minister for Information and Broadcasting Chaudhry Fawad Hussain said this is yet another positive development for the country's economy. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has urged the Afghan leadership to sit together to resolve their problems. In a statement, he said the Afghan peace process has reached a critical phase and the parties will not gain anything from the allegations. The Foreign Minister, reaffirming Pakistan's commitment for peace and stability in the region, said, "We will not allow own land to be used against any other country." Shah Mahmood Qureshi said instead of being a spoiler, India should work for peace in the region. He said the minorities in India are under great stress and feeling insecure. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah has said his country values brotherly relations with Pakistan. Talking to Chairman Joint Chiefs of Staff Committee General Nadeem Raza, who called on him in Cairo, he said he holds Pakistan's armed forces in high esteem. He lauded the professionalism of Pakistan's armed forces and acknowledged their sacrifices in fight against terrorism. General Nadeem Raza said Pakistan is keen to expand its military-to-military cooperation with Egypt. The Chairman Joint Chief of Staff Committee also led the second round of defence and security talks there. 2 Pakistani officers were conferred upon Tamgha Imtiaz at a special investiture ceremony held at Embassy of Pakistan in Beijing today. Pakistan Ambassador to China Moinul Haq, on behalf of President of Pakistan, conferred the Civil Award upon Second Secretary Mohammad Junaid and Education Attaché Mohammad Suleiman Masood in recognition of their outstanding services for Pakistani students and communities stranded in Wuhan during the lockdown imposed in wake of COVID-19 pandemic last year. This is Radio Pakistan. Sindh budget of total outlay of 1,477.90 billion rupees for financial year 2021-2022 was presented today. Sindh Chief Minister Syed Murad Ali Shah, who also holds the portfolio of finance, unveiled the budget in Sindh Assembly this afternoon. He said the total volume of the budget for next financial year is 19.1% more than previous financial year. On the occasion, he announced 25% increase in the salaries of provincial government employees and the minimum wages for workers to 25,000 rupees from 17,500. The 10% increase in the pension of retired employees has also been proposed in the budget. Murad Ali Shah said spending on development for next financial years have been increased by 41.3%. Murad Ali Shah said government has decided to continue 30.9 billion rupees social protection program for the poor as the economy stability package. He said government has increased the budget for education sector by 14.2% with an allocation of 277.5 billion rupees, whereas 172.8 billion rupees have been earmarked for the health sector, which is 29.5% higher than current fiscal year. The government has allocated an amount of 24.7 billion rupees for infectious diseases, including COVID-19. In Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, the All Parties Hurriyat Conference and other Hurriyat leaders have condemned the inhuman treatment meted out to the Kashmiri detainees languishing in different jails of India and the territory. According to Kashmir Media Service, All Parties Hurriyat Conference General Secretary Maulvi Bashir Ahmed Irfani, in a statement issued in Srinagar, said that the inmates are treated as slaves and jails have been turned into torture centers. He deplored that detainees are denied basic amenities including proper food and medical treatment. He urged the UN Council for Human Rights and other human rights watchdogs to pay a visit to the jails in India to observe pathetic conditions of the detainees. In India, a journalist body, the Editors Guild of India, has said journalists and cartoonists are being targeted in India. In a statement, the journalists body said journalists and cartoonists critical of the government are being targeted on social media as pressures are being mounted by the government on these platforms to remove such critical journalists on the specious ground, and they are violating the law of the land. Meanwhile, members of Udhampur Journalists Association observed Black Day and held a silent march to register protest against the insensitive attitude of the authorities towards media persons. Speaking on the occasion, senior journalists condemned the insensitive attitude of the Indian authorities and said different tactics are being used to coerce journalists. China has urged NATO to stop exaggerating the China threat theory. In a post on its website, China's mission to the European Union said the NATO statement slandered China's peaceful development, misjudged the international situation, and indicated a Cold War mentality. He said our pursuit of defense and military modernization is justified, reasonable, open, and transparent. In Afghanistan, 4 polio vaccination workers were killed and 3 injured in separate attacks in Nangarhar today. The head of polio immunization drive in Nangarhar, Dr. Jan Mohammed, said gunmen targeted polio workers in 3 locations in the city. In today's first match of Pakistan Super League against Lahore Qalandars at Abu Dhabi, Quetta Gladiators were 4-4 no loss in 1 over a short while ago. Earlier, Lahore Qalandars won the toss and decided to field. The second match will be played between Peshawar Zalmi and Karachi Kings at 11 p.m. tonight. And now finally the weather. Rain with wind and thunder shower is expected in Punjab, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Gilgit-Baltistan, North-East Balochistan and Kashmir. However, isolated heavy falls and hailstorm are likely during the period. Dust storm is also expected in Upper Sindh. To end the news, here are some of the headlines once again. The Federal Cabinet has decided to monitor the implementation of the development projects under Public Sector Development Programme. G20 has suspended Pakistan's debt of $3.17 billion by the end of this year. In Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, All Parties Hurriyat Conference and Hurriyat leaders have condemned the inhuman treatment meted out to the Kashmiri detainees languishing in different jails of India and the occupied territory. And that is the end of the news. For more news and analyses, log on to our website radio.gov.pk and also watch live streaming of our bulletins on the link facebook.com/radio Pakistan.